Welcome to All About Steam, Episode 10, the GWR 60XX King Class. The Great Western Railway GWR 6000 class, or King class, is a class of 460 steam locomotive designed for express passenger work and introduced in 1927. The largest locomotives built by the GWR, apart from the unique Pacific, the Great Bear. The class was named after kings of the United Kingdom and of England, beginning with the reigning monarch, King George V. I want to get a good shot. King George V. And going back through history, they handled the principal GWR expresses on the main line from London to the west of England, and on the GWR main line to Birmingham and Wolverhampton until 1962, when the class was withdrawn. By 1918, it was apparent to the GWR Chief Mechanical Engineer George Jackson. You know what? I will be right back. Chief Mechanical Engineer George Jackson Churchwood that a Star Class 460 locomotives would soon be incapable of handling heaviest west of England expresses without assistance. Therefore, proposing fitting the 6-foot 1.383 meter diameter boiler used on his 4700 class 280. Sorry, guys. I kind of ran back to my room across the house. 280 on a 460 chassis. In 1919, to create a more powerful express locomotive. In 1919, to create a more powerful express locomotive, but was prevented from doing so by the weight restrictions of the GWR mainline. The future problem was therefore left to his successor, C.B. Collett, to solve. On taking up office in 1922, Collett began to develop more powerful GWR Castle class from Churchwood Star Design class. However, the design was limited to a maximum axle loading of 19.5 long tons, or 19,800 kilograms. due to the weakness of some underlying bridges. A new class would therefore not be able to pull 13 plus carriage express trains unaided. Following their construction in 1923, the Castle class was the most powerful express passenger class in the country in terms of tractive effort. And this honor was lost to the Southern Railway's Lord Nelson class in 1926. GWR's general manager, Sir Felix Pole, was anxious for the new design that would once again enable the company to claim to run the most powerful locomotive. Pole agreed to allow Collett to explore a design for a super castle, subject to getting the tractive effort above 40,000 pounds or 180 newtons. By 1927, a series of bridge renewals had taken place on the Great Western Main Lines. This was coupled with the widely known, but yet unpublished, findings of the Bridge Stress Committee, which gave engineers a better scientific understanding of the impact of hammer blow, and enabled the GWR civil engineers to agree to raise the maximum allowable axle loading to 22.5 long tons to 22,900 kilograms for the new Super Castle class. Although Collett was nominally responsible for the design of the class, the detailed work was undertaken by his chief draughtsman, Frederick Hawksworth. The bulk of increase in power over the Castle class was initially achieved through raising the boiler pressure to a maximum of 250 pounds per square inch. And by increasing the cylinder stroke from 26 inches 660 millimeters to 28 inches 711 millimeters. Sorry, for some reason I have the hiccups. No, I'm just losing boiler pressure. There we go. These factors increased the tractive effort to around 38,165 pounds, or pounds per feet, I think, actually. It might just be pounds. Or 169,770 newtons, slightly below the figure required by Pole. As a means of increasing the tractive effort, bringing it closer to 40,000 pounds, 80,000 newtons, required by Pole, smaller 6 foot 6 inches, 1.981 meters, driving wheels were used compared to the standard 6 foot 8.5 inches, 2.045 meters on the Castles. And the first 6 locomotives to be built had their cylinders bored out to 16th to the 25th inch mark, 412.8 millimeters, giving a further 990 pounds, 4,400 newtons, thereby enabling the Kings to achieve a tractive effort of 40,300 pounds. The smaller wheels also allowed for a wider boiler within loading gauge to be used. Later operational experience showed that the loading gauge clearance of the outer cylinders was problematic, resulting in the replacement of each locomotive's first major overhaul, which resulted in a reduced tractive effort of 39,700 pounds. The new 16 feet 0 inches 4.88 meters long GWR standard No. 12 boiler was used on only this class. It had a maximum diameter of 6 feet 0 inches 1.829 meters, tapering to 5 feet 6 inches by 1/4 inch. There was 5 feet 6 inches. There also was, okay, I'm not going to go through this. 20 locomotives were ordered from the GWR Cementing Works in 1927, lot 243. The first locomotive, number 6000, King George V, appeared in June 1927, followed by 5 others, 6001, 6005, a month later. The remaining 14, 6006 through 6019, appeared at almost weekly intervals between February and July 1928. A second batch of 10 locomotives, 6020 and 6029, lot 267, appeared between May and August 1930. Number 6007, King William III, was written off after an accident near Shiveringham on January 15, 1936, was condemned on March 5, 1936. Replacement was built lot No. 309, which may have incorporated some parts of the damaged locomotive. It took the same number and name, and was added to stock on the 24th of March 1936. It was originally intended that the class be named after notable cathedrals, but following invitation to feature GWR in the Baltimore and Ohio's B&O's centenary celebrations, the GWR decided to make them more notable by naming the class after British kings. Following the death of King George V in 1936, number 6029, King Stephen, was renamed to King Edward VIII after his successor, and following the abdication of the latter in the same year, number 6028, King Henry II, was renamed to King George VI after the new king. The class proved to be a success and able to cope with the heaviest express trains at a higher speed timetable average than the Castle. Due to their size and weight, the King's was, however, restricted to the London, Taunton, Plymouth, via both Bristol and Westbury, the London, Birmingham, Wolverhampton, via Bicester main lines. The class was therefore used on GWR's crack expresses as the Cornish Riviera Limited until the end of regular steam-hauled expresses on the western region of British Railways, though they needed assistance for the heaviest services over the South Devon banks and between Newton Abbot and Plymouth. They were unable to serve in Cornwall due to the weakness of the Royal Albert Bridge, and so when they were hauling the Cornish Riviera Limited, they had to be swapped out for a castle or hall at Devonport. After 6 months of operation, number 6000 was shipped to North America in August 1927 to join in the Baltimore and Ohio centennial operations, where its seeked appearance and smooth performance impressed all who had witnessed it. King George V was presented with a brass bell and cabside medallions to mark the occasion. The application pressurized oil lubrication showed its advantages over the largely grease-lubricated American locomotives. It was even incorporated into a later design for the B&O in 1928. Number 6014 was partly streamlined in March 1935 with a hemispherical smokebox door and continuous splashers, straight nameplate, and a swept-back cab front. However, the appendages were soon removed, with the exception of the cab. The class proved to be capable of and reliable, using the high qualified South Welsh steam coal, on which the GWR had always used for its good locomotive performance. However, during the 1948 locomotive exchanges, King Henry VI performed disappointingly using Yorkshire coal, despite demonstrating the 460's type's unique sure-footedness when climbing out of the King's Cross, where Pacific types were apt to slip alarmingly. As originally built, the class had a Swindon superheater with an area of 306 and 313 square feet, 9.1 meters squared. However, in 1947, experiments were undertaken with a 4-row high-degree superheater and No. 622, King Edward III. And I'm speeding. That is not good. King Edward III. As a result, the four row torpedoes were fitted to the whole class. Modifications were also made to the joining arrangement number 6001 King Edward VII as a test bed. From September 1955, dual pass pipes and chimneys were fitted. Initially no 6015 King Richard III. Following successful testing, the whole rest of the class was subsequently modified, and as a result, their final years in British Railways ownerships saw the very best of their performance, particularly in the steep South Devon banks at Danley, Ratturney, and Hemerdon. The entire class was withdrawn in 1962 and replaced by the Western Region's short-lived diesel hydraulic Western class locomotives. There have been 2 serious accidents involving the class. On January 15th, 1936, a freight train became divided at Shrevington, Berkshire, due to errors by the guard of the freight train and signalman. An express passenger train was hauled by number 6007 King William III, ran into the 6 wagons and had been left behind and derailed. 2 people were killed. As a result, the locomotive was written off and replaced by another with the same name and number. November 4th, 1940, an express passenger train hauled by number 6028 King George VI was derailed at Norton Fredericton, Somerset, due to the driver misreading signals. 27 people were killed and 57 were seriously injured. 31 engines were built at Swindon, although only 30 were in service simultaneously. As a result of its previous 7-foot and a 1/4-inch broad gauge system, the GWR had the largest loading gauge of all the pre-nationalization railways in the UK. To allow maximum power creation and a resultant speed, the GWR designed the King class to its maximum mainline loading gauge, specifically a maximum height allowance of 13 feet 5 inches. Consequently, this restricted them as to where they could operate both under GWR and British Railways ownership. Number 6017, King Henry VII, was subjected to preservation by Sir Billy Bootland, but the plans never came to fruition and the locomotive was scrapped. Famous actor Kenneth More expressed a desire to save the locomotive, but those plans never came to fruition as well. Developments in the high-speed rail in the 1970s meant that ballast depths increased, and resulting in a present decrease in UK plan network loading gauge height. This has recently started to reverse the introduction of pan-European loading gauge standards on some main lines, mainly originating from ports. To present result of these civil engineering changes changes is that an original height King locomotive will not pass through various points in the modern network rail system, designed to a loading gauge height of 13 feet 1 inch. All 3 preserved Kings have been on the main line in preservation, but only 6000 King George V and 6024 King Edward I have operated on the main line. Faced with the choice of either not operating their locomotives on the main line or modifying to allow them to pass the current restricted UK loading gauge, private societies have chosen to reduce the height of locomotives by 4 inches, reducing cab and chimney height, modifying some upper pipework. The National Rail Museum owners of 6000 King George V had decided to keep the locomotive in its original condition. The Broughton of Swindon commissioned a new coat of arms when it became a utility authority in 1997. The coat of arms includes an image of 6000 King George V on the shield, recognizing the importance of the Swindon Works and the development of Swindon. The coat of arms of both the old Broughton Borough of Swindon, 19,000 through 74, include an image of GWR 3031 Class 3029 White Horse. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode of All About Steam. Here we have 6017 King Edward the... Give me a second. IV. King Edward IV. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at Roman numerals. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and goodbye.